Well, good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here back in Hyderabad. It's a town I was born and raised in. In fact, I'm a true Hyderabadi. I was born in the old city. So, it's a real pleasure for me to be back here. And then to also attend Manthan, something that I've been hearing a lot about over the last few years. And when Ajay called me and asked me to, Ajay Mama, as I call him, because I was this little when I met him first, and asked me to join in. I was, as was said earlier, this was my duty to come in and speak and share with you some of my scar tissue about what I believe is one of the most exciting changes, not just in technology, but in society that we all will be experiencing in the next 5 to 10 years. And some of it is already happening. Again, as a kid growing up in Hyderabad, it's phenomenal to see this sort of platform get together and start discussing real issues of change. And my talk over the next 35 minutes or so will talk mostly about not the technology part of artificial intelligence, but the relevance of it and the impact it's going to have on us as a society and us as a workforce here in Hyderabad and in India, and also what it means for us as a country. Hearing the speakers earlier, it was quite sobering and also quite inspiring to hear their views about some of the social issues that are still facing us as a country. And I'll share with you how technology is going to actually help us address some of these areas. So to start with, let me get the slides working. Is there something you can help me with? I can do this without the slides as well, but I think the slides have some nice pictures on it, so you guys will enjoy that. Anyways, as he's getting the technical stuff done, there it is. Is it okay? Yeah, there you go. Wi-Fi issues. So three big things. One is I want to share with you that we're at the cusp of a phenomenally exciting and different new world that's actually going to make the internet look small in terms of what's coming ahead of us. Second, I'm going to talk about how this is going to disrupt not just IT, but our entire lives as a society, how it's already beginning to happen. And then last but not the least, I'm going to talk about how as a society we can harness some of these new technologies that's amongst us today for the betterment. And much has been written about AI. Let me just start with the definition of what is AI. Artificial intelligence is considered to be the formal definition. It's the science and engineering of making intelligent machines that act and learn as human beings do. It's also seen as an ethical way of making a computer program. It could be a robot, it could be a handheld phone, it could be a software that thinks like a human being does. That's kind of the essence of what artificial intelligence is all about. And when you start looking at, our world today is filled with artificial intelligence, whether you know it or not. The stuff that you do today, the Siri application on your iPhone, or Microsoft Cortana, or IBM's Watson, which I had the privilege of running when the IBM board asked me to commercialize Watson. All of these are examples of intelligent machines at work. You also have, intelligent vacuum cleaners, Roomba, for those of us that have used it. And now Uber is already testing driverless cars. In Pittsburgh, I think they have a fleet of 50 cars now picking up and dropping people off. And not only that, when you listen to music, when you listen to a Spotify or a Savan or other, all of these things are using artificial intelligence. So someone said the future is already here. It is not evenly distributed. And I think that's what I'm going to share with you as to how the future amongst us is going to start changing it. So one of the big questions that comes up in artificial intelligence is, will we be all out of a job? Will the machines replace us? It's an age-old question. It came up when Telegram came about. It came up when telephones came about. It came up when the internet came about. I think it's the same question again, except this time around, this is a more relevant question because past technologies went after blue-collar workers. These technologies are going after white-collar workers. These are going after people with a lot of knowledge in their heads that traditionally machines were not able to replace. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the impact is going to be on jobs as we move forward. The other thing that's come up as a question is, does AI mean that machines are going to start being the new digital overlords, right? You've had people like Stephen Hawking, you have people like Elon Musk start raising alarm bells about, as a race, we are now going to be subdued by this new class of machines. Now, with due respect to them, I think there is some truth to it, but I don't really share their sense of foreboding because there is a lot before you can make a machine human. We cannot confuse the brain, which is what most of computer science is going after, from the mind, which is a higher order construct, to consciousness, which is an even higher order construct. So at the most, what we can do is start replicating pieces of the brain, but not really come anywhere close to the mind or the consciousness. So I sort of tend to not. Now, there are some pieces of careers and jobs that will be taking over, and I'll give you a view of that. So in order to understand what's going on, I think what we need to do is first step back and take a bigger look at where we are as an industry. The first thing is there is something very significant that's happening as a technology that we have never seen in the last 75 years of IT. I call this the super convergence. This is the super convergence of 6 major technology types that are coming together, from AI to cloud to mobile, big data, social. You've heard about this, about how social media is being used to give voice to a lot of things. And this is incredibly important because it is not the technology itself that matters. It is how you weave this technology together to create a new class of systems that really is the exciting part. The other thing that's happening, going back one slide, I think there's a little bit of a, this is why I'm not worried about intelligent machines. We have a long way to go. So the other thing that's happening is compute costs are dropping dramatically. Okay, this is a slide that shows for $1,000 a month, how much compute capacity you can get in the cloud. So last year, for $1,000 a month, you could get the compute capacity equal to one insect's brain. Okay? By the end of this year, you will get compute capacity equal to one mouse's brain. Okay? The talk is that in 12 years, you will get compute capacity equals to a human's brain. And I have to say, I don't think that'll be a Hyderabadi brain. I think that'll be a longer time, to really get to the Hyderabadi brain. So I've asked IBM Research to look into the topic, and I said, create a separate project to really figure out the Hyderabadi brain, because I think that's going to take a while. But the exciting part is, in 40 years, the talk is that for $1,000 a month, you will get compute capacity equals to all human brains put together. So just imagine the implication. You now have a platform that can compute things at high speed. The second thing that's happening is, along with this engine, you have a lot of new oil coming into this engine. Data is the new oil. Okay? 90% of the world's information was created in the last 2 years. Okay? 90% of what we know today came up in the last 2 years. And that's doubling every 12 months. Okay? Today we produce enough information globally that can deliver 190 newspaper, Times of India, to each one of you every day. That's the level at which information is going on. And that's a very significant thing. What that means is that the human brains have been overrun. Okay? We cannot process all the data that we're creating. This is where artificial intelligence is going to be exciting. This is where, listening to our speaker before, when he's saying, I'm looking for this data on looking at Vedanta or looking at some of these issues with Vijay Mallya, I think machines can start helping him start finding those nuggets, finding those data, because robots, you heard about Google News Feed and Facebook News Feed, and on the controversy, that they're building algorithms that will tell you what news you need to know. And now the talk is that Facebook and Google have become the largest news editors in the world because they have a platform that is now telling you what you should know. Now imagine changing this where you can start defining your software robots that will say, here are the topics, here's who I am, look at my behaviors online, and start curating my own personal news feeds and newspapers. That's the shift. That's the part that we're getting into. The other thing that's happening is this is another important thread. Intelligent devices are exploding. Okay? Traditionally, computers were restricted to 2 or 3 different environments. Your one environment was primarily one of punch card. Then you got into the green screen terminals. Today, at most, you have a browser and a mobile phone, and soon you will have a watch. But suddenly, now you're getting to a point where intelligence will be distributed everywhere. Intel, who's invested in one of my companies, they said to us they're developing chips that will cost pennies and that will last for a year, that they will embed into a curtain or into a tablecloth or into a chair. So it can sense what's going on and it will start barking data. And all that data is going to be consumed by new class of applications. Okay? In essence, what's happening is the internet as we know it is going to disappear. Okay? I think people will find very cute that 10 years from now, we went on to this little device called Google Search, and we did a search on a little box. Okay, that's why Google split itself up. They realize that search is not where the future is. What is going to happen is that the world is going to become your browser, and you will become the cursor. Everything will be barking data. So when I walk into this room, I am the cursor. My location, my emotion, okay, my voice in saying, next slide. If you guys have used Amazon Alexa, you will start understanding voice is going to start becoming an important prompt. Your eyes are going to start becoming an important prompt. So the exciting things for entrepreneurs and innovators here in India or anywhere in the world for that matter is to use this computable web and start creating new applications. So it's a very exciting part where you can start building new applications that start creating new experiences. And I'll give you examples of that, how healthcare gets done, how education gets done. All of that will start changing. The other big shift is every application and every business process will start becoming intelligent. Why is it that if I'm an accountant, if I'm doing an audit process, why is it that my audit process is not learning every year that this particular customer continues to have this issue? Or if I'm a doctor, if I'm working with a diabetic, why is it that the machine's not learning, okay, that his food habits were this, and then based on the last research report that came out 2 months ago, the medication compliance that you have on is not relevant, and why is it not telling the doctor as you're consulting on diabetes as to, hey, I just read this article, and I think looks like this patient fits that pattern? Why is it that when I'm educating myself on the internet, I have to go pull all the stuff together? Why is it not my internet? Okay, these are the kinds of things that artificial intelligence is going to start changing from everything from sales and marketing and logistics and others. And this is another reason, by the way, why you see the Infosys, the Cognizants, the Wipros beginning to shift their technologies and their offerings. Because what this is going to do is going to take away a lot of jobs. It's going to take away a lot of jobs in the IT industry, which are purely built on manual labor today. One of the IT companies I was talking to, they have 300 people in Bangalore matching invoices, sort of looking at different fields. The invoices are called this, account numbers called this, and they're kind of managing that. I can replace that with a little software bot that will cost me 2 cents a day and runs 24/7 and gets intelligent every time. This stuff is happening. This is not things that, and that's part of the reasons that all the big companies, that's why Vishal Sikka at SAP is trying to shift Infosys into being more of a products and a company. So I think there is a massive disruption that we have to be aware of for those of us that are in the IT industry. So how are people capitalizing on this? This is some exciting stuff, not at the technology level, but at the business level that I've started identifying. I want to share that with you. What we're getting to is the age where connections between man and machine is going to be the third generation. When computers came about, it was mainframes that started it first. Okay? After mainframes, we now are in the era of web and social media and LinkedIn and so on and so forth. Where we are going to now are cognitive systems. Those of you that have seen the movie Iron Man, the Jarvis suit, what we are building, the companies I'm investing in, are building your personal Jarvis suits. I'm building the Windows operating system for the next generation of Jarvis suit. And the Jarvis suit is not going to look like a clunky suit. It will be a connection of your glasses to your watch, to your mobile phone. And as more and more of you get instrumented, this operating system will start guiding you. It will start making you superhuman. I'll give you some examples of where this is happening. I would say today, when it comes to taking taxis, you're superhuman. Right? 10 years ago, who would have said you could stand anywhere in Hyderabad, pick up an app, and say, I want a taxi to go to this place, and I don't want to discuss any pricing with this guy, and it needs to be the most cost efficient. Uber did it for you. Why? Because they took a combination of cloud and mobile and artificial intelligence, and they created a new business model out of it. That's the world we're going to get to, where everything is going to be Uberized. Every business process will be made available to you on demand, and that's the excitement part. And as an investor, what I'm looking at is investing into this early trend. So I've had the fortune of building and selling 2 startups. My last startup was bought by IBM. That's how I ended up IBM. Then I ran IBM Watson. After that, I left saying, I want to be a coach. I don't want to be a player. I want to now enable other great CEOs and not be a CEO myself. We have 8 companies. They're shifting in this phase of now investing in the building blocks of applied artificial intelligence. Over the next 5 years, there's going to be a massive amount of innovation. And frankly, innovation that will help us at the bottom of the pyramid. I love the line, that we are an agricultural country with pockets of urbanization. I think there is a massive amount of good that this technology can do if you're a farmer, or if you're working in the fields, or if you're working on, a small business. And my request and my suggestion to all you entrepreneurs is, don't go after building the next big application that makes some guy richer who's already got $1 billion. Go after really helping the masses whose lives can be changed by predicting and using some of these technologies to have a better life. And this disruption is already happening. AI is not something hypothetical. It's happening today. New businesses are being created out of that. The world's largest taxi company, Uber, does not own any taxis. The world's largest hotel company, Airbnb, does not own any hotels. The world's largest phone company, WeChat and WhatsApp, they don't own any telephone infrastructure. So on and so forth. The largest movie house in the world is Netflix, and they don't own any theater. What these guys have done, the reason they have been valued at billions of dollars, is how they use technology to come up with a new business model. And the part that is panicked a lot of CEOs globally, I go around the world, I talk to a lot of boards, a lot of CEOs, and this is their question. They're all worried about getting Uberized. They know that their time is coming, or that companies are going to be unbundled and rebundled in a new way. And here are some examples. Okay, here's an example of Wells Fargo, a bank. This could be a HDFC, this could be ICICI. We took their website and we looked at each of their products on the website. These are all individual startups unbundling personal lending, commercial lending, and they're building a whole new business. Why? Because they can directly access you, the consumer, on a mobile phone. Okay. Last 100 years, business was built on one premise, which is supply chain and manufacturing as a core competence. Next 100 years, it's going to flip to the opposite, which is customer access and customer service. And new business models is where the action is. This is an example of Macy's, a retailer, getting unbundled. This is an example, it's not just stopping to this is Procter & Gamble. Like Hindustan Levers could be there. You've heard of a company called Dollar Shaving Club. They're selling you shavers, like razor blades, for $1 a month, as many as you want. Why? Because that's a high margin product, and they can still make a lot of money on it, and that's valued at $2 billion, that company. Procter & Gamble looking at saying, all my high profit products are now being unbundled, and startups are now building new companies using AI and cloud and big data. That's where the value is. That's the exciting opportunity for those of us in India to start doing this for the local market. Okay? You've already seen how Flipkart and all the other technologies from a delivery point of view, the infrastructure is built for you. What you now need to start doing is coming up with new and exciting business models. That's a hotel company, Starwood's, getting unbundled. I'm not going to take it. The example is, this is happening in every industry. This is not just an issue of P&G, or this is General Motors, the car getting unbundled. Okay? There is more money spent in a car today on software than it is on metal and steel. After software, the next item is electronics. Then the third item is steel. If you look at and decompose a car. So software is eating the world. Everything is getting digitized. Everything is getting electronified. And the opportunity here is not to do more software, is to invent new business models using that software. And this is happening at a faster and faster pace. This is an example of WhatsApp. It took them 5 years to get to the same number of customers that Vodafone did over 22 years. It took 55 employees to get to same number of customers that 92,000 employees of Vodafone did. Right? So what's happening is the rate and pace, because of mobile phone, at which this disruption is being served is massive, and that's where the exciting opportunities are. So where we are getting to now is that every business is going to become a cognitive business. So 20 years ago, when the internet came about, every business became an e-business. Now, with the artificial intelligence and cloud, every business will become a cognitive business, which means a business that is able to engage and learn by using the power of machine. It's like putting a digital brain behind your business. That's the exciting, and this is why I say this is going to make the internet look small. And I'll give you some examples in a few minutes of what this digital brain looks like. If I can take a small process around managing kids with diabetic, pediatric asthma, I can have this cloud, this cognitive cloud, start doing all the analysis on your behalf and start giving you insights if you're a care worker or if you're a hospital. I'll give you an example quickly here of Dallas. In Dallas, there are 70,000 children who've got pediatric asthma. So whenever something bad happens in their food or in the environment, they get an asthmatic attack. They have 60 care workers, nurses, whose job it is to make sure those 70,000 kids don't show up at the emergency room. And they're all looking at just the electronic medical records. They're not looking at any of the environmental data. They're not looking at societal data. And they're just doing the same service. What we did is we took and applied a cognitive cloud, which is a technology which we says, this thing is going the other way. What we did is we started taking this cloud technology, where the cloud now, when the nurse is sleeping at night, it starts reading through US Census data. So we know which person is located where. They start reading and understanding data on weather, data on pollen. There is a website called pollen.com that starts looking for where is it that a particular type of ragweed is coming out. And we use this technology to start then determining which kids in which particular region are likely to be impacted. And we start creating specified alerts to the care workers to say, on Monday morning, these 3 kids are likely to show up, to start giving them inhalers or start giving them some interventions. This is where you don't have a machine learning person sitting and writing it. This is where you have the computers working on behalf of the doctors and the nurses and saying, I've gone through all your records of a medical record, this thing. Here are the 3 kids on Monday morning you can expect to show up. That's the power of changing cognitive with artificial intelligence. So I'm having some issues with the clicker here. I'm in 2 minds whether to just skip my slides or talk through it, but let me do my best to stay synced up with my slides. The last part of my talk has to do with implications. What does this mean to us as a race, right, as a society? So one of the biggest things that we're going to have as an issue is one of job replacement. And there have been studies that have been done, like I said earlier, automation, whenever it's happened through telephone, telegraph, internet, it always went after low-value jobs. With artificial intelligence, you're actually also getting higher-valued, higher-skilled jobs being replaced. And there was a study that was done that 90 to 100% of these job types are likely to be replaced by machines in the next decade. Okay? So one of the ones is being a model. Now, I'm not very current on Indian models. I think I was remembering who the Indian model was. Malaika Arora is the last one I thought, and it was like 20 years ago, I think. So if I were whatever Malaika Arora's equivalent, whoever the model is right now, I'll be very worried that I'll be out of a job. Doesn't mean that I won't be walking down the runway anymore. It's just that you will now start getting on your mobile phones and devices an avatar of yourself with your body shape, with your body style, with your preferences. So when you start looking at these dresses, they will start being personalized by you, by the machines, saying, I know that you like striped, I know you like open-toed shoes, and I know you tend to want to wear patterns more versus solids in summers. And the models that you'll start seeing through AR and VR will be your personalized self. You don't need someone who weighs 30 kilograms lesser than you walking down a thing and you're wondering how the hell will the dress look on me. Same thing with sports empires. You're seeing more and more technology being replacing sports and so on and so forth. I can spend a lot of time going through this stuff. Now, there's some categories of jobs, thankfully, that machines won't replace. Firefighters, physicians, and so on and so forth. In fact, this threat is so prominent that BBC did a website saying, what are the chances that your job is going to be replaced? So those of you, I put a link in there, are worried about finding out whether your job will exist or will be impacted in the next 10 years or not, there is a good diagnostic tool that you can use. Because this is fundamentally going to create a whole new class of opportunities for all of us. And then this stuff is also changing by country. There was a study that was done on which countries are likely to be impacted by artificial intelligence. Where are the jobs going to be changed? And if you look at the numbers for India, 69% of the jobs, not about the agricultural jobs, but the workforce that we have, the consensus is, are going to be impacted in the next decade, where machines are either going to start replacing those jobs or are going to start taking over or modifying those jobs. So the other survey that was done is, there's a fear about, machines are going to take away the job. But this survey, it was a useful one, said that AI is not going to completely replace your job. What it will do is it will augment your job. So if you're a nurse, it'll make you a super nurse because the machine will start telling you, hey, watch for those kids or watch for that patient. Or if I am a legal advisor, if I'm preparing for my law case, it'll start giving me briefs on if I'm an auditor, it'll start telling me what to look for this particular class of customers. So every knowledge worker, every knowledge job that's there, we're going to start having almost like your own personal Siri. A Siri that is more not question-answer driven, but a Siri that will start tapping you on the shoulder and start saying, check out for this or look out for this, even before you ask a question. So the other piece, I'm going to make sure we have enough time for question and answers. I passionately believe that this whole hoopla about computers taking over the world is misplaced. And primarily because, genuine machine intelligence human intelligence takes a lot of work to understand. How do you understand something like instinct, intuition? Why would a grown-up man throw himself in front of a train to save a 5-year-old baby? How do you train a machine to do that? So there are lots of things about the human mind and the human consciousness that we ourselves don't know how it works. So it's so far away from being replaced by a machine. What you can do is there are some brain functions, not mind functions and consciousness functions, that can be automated and that can be put into a machine. And also I believe that the new amount of the new data that's coming out, right? Sophia, when she went through the kinds of work that NGOs are doing using social media, there's a whole new class of jobs that will be created for people who can use that data. Just like when the web came about, you had webmasters. Similarly, now you'll have data masters and AI masters. The other part is AI will and is already continuing to change our lifestyle. Now, this is a swanky picture of a very nice apartment, and it shows how your thermostat and everything is connected. But when I look at that picture, I just don't look at that. I look at a slum in Dharavi, in Bombay. And I say, what would this Internet of Things, how can that change that person's lifestyle? Okay, in terms of be it power, be it water, be it any resource. There's a massive amount of opportunity for us to do good. In fact, I tell my CEOs, the mantra for us as we build these companies is do good, have fun, and make a lot of money, but never get the sequence confused. Your purpose has to be to do good for the society. If you do that well and have fun doing it, the world will reward you with the money. But if you go out to do a startup just because you want to make money, I can guarantee you that you will not likely to succeed. And if you look at the agrarian society that we have, if you look at the urban sprawl that we are getting into, all kinds of issues, traffic, pollution, corruption, all of these things, I do believe AI is and will impact. And for those of you that are entrepreneurs in this audience, I think there is a whole new world that you can go and innovate. The other part that is going to change is how we entertain ourselves. Okay, games, you're already seeing every kid is sort of into that little game and they're playing phones. But gaming as a way to also educate ourselves is going to change. So if you look at how games have evolved, we started off with automated opponents, computer playing against you. Then we moved to non-player characters, right? There are new characters who are coming in and competing against you. Then we moved to AI as a game player. This is where IBM Watson and Google Go, they had the recent competition. This is where the AI is now the game player. Where it's going to now, and this is the exciting part, is the AI is the game creator. That you will now start getting new games being created by AI. Why did Facebook pay $2 billion to Oculus Rift? Not because they wanted to become a virtual reality company, because they know the next level of experiences are going to be in the augmented world. Why was Pokemon Go such a big success? Because it showed that the mobile phones are now going to start getting three-dimensional. The web is going to stop being your interface. The world is going to be your interface. A Pokemon Go shows you virtually where each of these items are. Imagine if I'm a CEO, I walk into my business and I call it my compliance Pokemon Goes. I have my compliance Pokemons waiting for me in the morning saying, since you went home last night, there are 4 compliance issues came in. Okay, if I'm a bank CEO. There are 2 anti-money laundering kind of flags that I put up for you. There was a travel exception in this particular department. Where I just open up my phone, it will tell me, here are the 4 Pokemons to go chase today. Fix it in your business processes, right? So we have to start thinking of a world where it's not a mobile-first world, but it's an AI-first world. Mobile is going to be replaced by a new class of applications, and it's happening. The last part, which I'm the most passionate about, is the thing about education. I do believe after healthcare, the biggest, gosh, this thing is running away from me. This is what happens when an AI takes over your presentation, or someone back there. So the last part is education. I think on the education side, one of the biggest frontiers of fixing the evil in society, I think, is education. Be it a war in the Middle East or be it economic crisis in Venezuela, I think a heart of this comes to education. One of the biggest opportunities we have now is we have this communication backbone, this global communication backbone that's free called the internet. Okay, we now have near instantaneous access to that information with mobile phones that are very inexpensive. The opportunity now is to start creating personalized tutors. Is to start creating, why is it that I have to go to a YouTube and to a Khan Academy and to an MIT Media Lab and then collect the courses for me? My vision is one of, if I'm a kid in sub-Saharan Africa or in Bihar, when I'm born, my father will give me, or my mother will give me this mobile phone, okay, which will have a cognitive tutor in it, and it will start teaching and training me through games and lessons, and it will take me through my professional lives, and it will be there by my side. It's not that far away, okay? So healthcare is going to be changed because now we have a ubiquitous backbone called the internet. We have mobile devices that you can access it. You have cloud that can process all of this thing very cheaply. What is needed is innovative applications. Healthcare is going to change. Education is going to change on healthcare. If I'm a 12-year-old kid, say in Vijayawada, somewhere working in a farm, and I get bit by something, I go running to my father and say, I got bit by something, I don't know what it is, and it's growing in size. He doesn't have any access to medical information, but he can take the phone, click a picture of it, send it to the healthcare cognitive cloud, which will come back and say there's a 47% chance it's a spider bite. There's a 22% chance it looks like a snake bite. Here's the triage information for snake bite. Here are 4 hospitals within the next 20 kilometers. Do you want me to make a phone call for you? Okay? This is stuff that is possible today with technology. This is what I talk about as democratization of access to education and access to healthcare. That is what gets me excited and getting up out of bed every morning and spending 400,000 miles a year on airplanes. The other part that's very exciting to me, growing up, I used to read Amar Chitrakatha, right? And I used to always find fascination about this question, Bhishma on the bed of arrows, that Arjun could go and ask him, give me the knowledge. And as a kid, I used to say, the biggest wastage in life is that whenever a person gets older, this is when they have the most knowledge, the most wisdom, then they pass away, and all the knowledge goes with them. Why do we as a society why don't we have a mechanism by which we can keep that person's knowledge? The other question around the same time was Alexander the Great, right? Listening to the story, he was taught by Aristotle for 14 years. And I used to always wonder, wouldn't it be cool if we had known what Aristotle taught him so that we could benefit as a society, okay? Now, when I was running IBM Watson, I was asked to apply this big machine into commercial applications. I chose healthcare as the first one and cancer as the first one. So for cancer, I went in and applied it at MD Anderson, which is one of the known entities. And this guy there, Dr. Hagoob Karzarjian, we took leukemia. We took blood cancer as one cancer type to go after with an intelligent machine. His problem was, he says, cancer is all radiology, surgery, all that stuff, but where it needs to be is DNA-based cancer, genomics. But he said, today it takes me 4 years to process all the genomic data, to look at the patient system with different trial of diseases, and by the time I come up with a personalized drug for this patient, the patient's died. So help me use your computer to figure out what should I do, what disease and what research. But there were 8 million research articles that he had to go through to figure out, based on this patient system, what is the drug that will work. We then took Watson, we applied it on a 10-month project. At the end of 9 months, he came up to me, I will never forget this, it changed the direction of my life. He came in with about 12 of his colleagues and he said, the exciting news is now we have found that we can come up with this stuff in a matter of 10 months. We can now come up with leukemia treatments, not 4 years, okay? Then he said something equally exciting, in fact, more exciting. As he was leaving, he said, oh, by the way, going forward, all of this work is now going to be done by my associates because everything that I know about treating leukemia is now in that machine. It hit me that this guy is the Bhishma of leukemia. And his knowledge is now captured in that machine. Just imagine the implication of it. The new doctors, when they come in, now when one day he passes away, just like I will, 20 years from now, new doctors can use his knowledge and start building up new treatment protocols and new medicines. I have rarely had tears in my eyes in a business meeting. That was the one where I had tears rolling down my eyes, thinking there are hundreds of millions of people whose lives are going to be changed by applying technology for good. So much so that I gave a small TED talk on this. I talked about what we are going through now is the fourth biggest inflection in human history as a race. Okay? The first inflection was cuneiform tablets in Mesopotamia. We started writing and capturing knowledge. Second one was the printing press, the Gutenberg printing press. Third was the internet, where it knows about you. But internet doesn't know what you know, it just knows about you. It knows what you tweeted, it knows what you liked, what you didn't like, but it does not know what's in your head. An AI-powered cognitive system knows what you know. So if you're an auditor, it knows the best techniques to audit a company. If you are a lawyer, it knows the best defense for a certain type of a trial. If you are a doctor, it knows the best kind of treatment to use for cancer or diabetes or obesity. This is the brilliance and importance. This is what makes me believe that this stuff is going to be changing us, not just as high-skilled workers, but as a society. And so much so that I think as a race, we are going to be morphed. Because who is it today that knows the most about you? Not your wife, not your parents, is that little cell phone. It's by you all the time. You go to bed with it, you wake up with it, it's collecting and understanding. That's the beginning of what I call as homo digitalis. It is extending you to the cloud through this device called the phone. And those of you that are Star Trek fans, this whole notion of Borg, the collective entity, that's what's going to come back. And I kind of came up with the thing saying, Homo sapiens are dead. Homo digitalis is the future. When someone writes things about us 50 years from now, they will say, as a race, come the birth of the internet and come the birth of cognitive systems, we started moving from like a Neanderthal man to Homo sapiens. We are now the race that's going to move from being Homo sapiens to Homo digitalis. Because now that phone is now got us connected into this global internet that will start connecting and augmenting and amplifying us. That is what's going to create a tremendous amount of economic opportunity and economic upheaval. And for people like me, it's going to create a tremendous amount of opportunity to do good in every aspect of our life. How we work, how we live, how we play, how we learn. And that's kind of what has me excited. And with that, let me move to Q&A section to make sure I get some of your comments.
Hello. Hi, Manoj. I'm Santosh Shukla, Enterprise UX Company F1 Studios. So I have a question for you. Being an investor, when do you think you would have this cognitive system help you in finding out the next startup which could actually be fundable by looking at the failures in the past?
Yeah, good question. By the way, when I was running IBM Watson, we ran that project. We do that today, is starting to look at the financial aspect of a startup. But here's the part about startups. Startups are an act of faith. Startup is not about technology. Startup is not about money. Startup is about one thing and one thing alone, which is about the heart of an entrepreneur. And that's almost impossible to gauge. You can get some financial data of what company is likely to do better than not, but I don't think you can really assess. And that's why people like us, you don't see me on the model saying I'm going to be replaced. Because I was looking at the report saying, okay, when are VCs going to be replaced? A big part of the job that we do, I probably get 2,000 proposals a year, okay, from people wanting to get money from me. And I have to start looking at what is it and where is it that I'm going to invest. I look at basic things like, are they in the geographies that I invest in? I only invest in Austin and California. They're not, then 80% of them go away. Second is, who is the team behind it? I always start with the person, and I think the essence, the best metric of a startup success in the future is the quality of the team. It's not the quality of the idea. A lot of people think it's the idea, but I can guarantee to you the best startups have, within the first 18 months, evolved quite far away from their initial idea. It's more about the quality of the team and the ability to really understand and deliver something of value to the market. Okay?
Yeah. I can see that you're a technological optimist, and professionally, I would basically agree with this. But let me ask an awkward question. AI can be applied to many things, and in particular with the ubiquity of security cameras, it can be applied with face recognition. You could combine this with data on the cloud of where people shop, what they speak, Facebook, what their opinions are. I'm not worried about robots taking over the world. I'm worried about human beings taking over the world.
Yes.
Aided by AI to render Big Brother kind of a quaint, obsolete, and rather naive idea of complete social control by a few people.
Yep. No, I think that's a great question, and frankly, it deserves a round of applause. So I think if you notice in my presentation, right in the beginning, I said ethical. I put a question mark on definition of AI. The ethics of AI is an incredibly important question, and you're right to raise that. I'll submit to you that's already happening today, the whole Snowden affair. After 9/11, the world changed, okay? For good or bad, the world changed. And I think we are at a point where everything that we do is instrumented. My phone has my bearing, and as much as you might use cookie cleaners and all, believe me, that stuff exists, okay? And governments can get to it. The notion of privacy that those of us who are baby boomers and older is dead, okay? What people now mind is not that you're taking my information, that you do so without my permission, and you do so without giving me value. If you look at my kids, they're very comfortable putting their opinions online, or they're comfortable being able to chat or send pictures. And I keep telling them, I said, what is it that prevents you? He said, I know I'm giving that out because I'm getting something back in value. So I think there are two levels of dynamic. One is at an individual level, we will continue to create more and more data, and that will be available. At a governmental level, that's why the kind of work that is being done around the NGOs on raising these issues. That's why Snowden was trying to build in some sort of, you would argue the same thing happened when telephones came about. Phones started getting tapped by government. Internet started getting tapped. So I don't think that will change. What will change is the rate and pace at which they will know stuff about you. Okay, not just on what you write, but how you look like, how you walk. I was just in London talking to the person at the Department of Security, and he was saying in Heathrow now, they have cameras that they will examine when you're walking down the aisle. Based on your gait, they can tell you whether you're a suspect or not. Without even looking at your face, based on the gait, how you're walking, they can tell you. So I think there's a potential for doing good. There's potential for doing harm, and this is where I think forums like this have a role to play in raising those issues and talking to our lawmakers to make sure we're designing the right laws.
The mic has been given to Purnima Nagaraj, is that?
No, this is Indira. Hi.
There are lots of hands up.
So my question is actually an extension to the gentleman's. What would be the security measures to AI taking over, or AI taking over human beings, or human beings taking over along with the AI?
Yeah, so that's a broad statement. In fact, I have a company invested in that space called Spark Cognition that looks at the whole security piece. Here's what's happening on the security part. When you say security, there are multiple facets to security. It's security of your personal data. It's security of your home. It is security of your infrastructure. Security is going to be impacted everywhere. One of the unfortunate things, one of the big areas of problems is after the Iranian fuel reactors were disabled by two countries who were not named, they took that virus called Stuxnet, which started messing up with the nuclear reactors, and they made it open source. Okay, that country, Iran, made it open source. And now every energy company out there, every utility company, every oil company, everyone that has an endpoint that is active is now susceptible for that virus attacking it. So there is now this whole set of companies that are coming up with this almost like Terminator, Skynet versus the Terminator. They're coming up with a new class of applications to fight this. What is also happening on the security side is the nature of war is changing. What used to be a physical war fought with digital assets is now becoming the opposite. It's now digital assets attacking the physical world. Okay? That's why some of the US elections, that there is claims about Russia and all, they're using information to start upsetting societal order and wars and stuff like that. That's why things like nukes and stuff like that are very important as a topic from a governance point of view. So I wish I knew all the answers. All I do know is that there's going to be dozens of new areas in security ripe for innovation from a technology point of view to build new companies so that we don't destroy ourselves as a society.
Hey Manoj, I'm Akhil. And in your talk and all the other questions, there's been a lot of speculation about AI replacing human beings, and that's been pretty much the main theme of your talk. Now, there's a company called Viv. I'm sure you must have heard of it.
Yep.
And they've developed a patented piece of technology of AI that writes its own code. So it literally writes its own code and executes the statements in a few milliseconds.
Yep.
And that's a bit scary. So, taking a few points from you saying, cognitive systems know everything about me, they know everything that's on the internet, and they're able to compile all of this. So my concern over here is, what are the security aspects? The Earth is moving towards acquiring, adopting these new technologies at a very fast pace. But do you think we need to slow down a bit and, adopt these technologies with a dose of paranoia?
Yeah. First of all, you can't slow it down. I don't think this is something that can explicitly be slowed down. You look at a 10-year-old. Look at a 5-year-old. One of my favorite videos on the internet is an 18-month-old child. She's crying because she's trying to swipe a magazine and the pages are coming in the way. Her reference is an iPad. And she's wondering, what the hell is this magazine? Because that's the digital natives, right? Why is it not swiping? So I don't think this change is going to, there's going to be reversed. What we have to do is start thinking of and anticipating as entrepreneurs, where are the applications of this to do societal good? Now, you can use it like many countries are for doing bad also. But that's why I have never been more excited to be an entrepreneur as I am now, because every part of our lives, every part of our infrastructure is going to have AI woven into it. In 5 years, saying that my software does AI will be like saying my software does the internet. It's a given. It's a given it has to do the internet. So from the security point of view, again, I've answered this before, you have to define what part of security. Is it security of a person and their information? Security of a business process? Is it security of a business? Is it security of a nation? So it's a multidimensional thing. It's not just one security, and there are many companies that will go after each of those areas.
Two last questions. My apologies to all the hands that are going up, and I can't take your questions. One, this gentleman, and the lady standing there.
Two quick bits. One is India's IT industry is about $150 billion, but still they've hardly scratched the surface of demand on AI. What is your view of the way you see this thing evolving here? Second bit, public health is very important in India. Malaria, we can only eradicate by 2030, they say. Zika, Thailand has hit 2 microcephalic cases. We don't know, we don't have diagnostic kits as well. On public health, what is it AI can do?
Thank you for those questions. Those are brilliant questions, both. I think on the IT industry side, I'm normally a very optimistic person, but when it comes to India IT industry, I'm a pessimist. I really think, and I think we're taking the steps. It's a big shift that's coming. Not just India, Philippines, Thailand, Eastern Europe, because the nature of work, I used to call the model was the larger countries said, take my mess and do it for less, right? It's your mess for less. That stuff is not what India is about. That's not what our people are about. We're about the brain power. So what we have to find out, how do we evolve the IT sector from your mess for less to your minds for less? How do I take your brains? How do I take your minds and start designing a new class of business processes and business systems? And that's where, if you look at every company, right? Infosys or, Cognizant or HCL, all of these guys, if you look at the strategy right now, they're going deep after industry, and they're beginning to talk about artificial intelligence. I think that was the reason Vishal Sikka was brought in from SAP to Infosys to bring in that product and a software kind of an orientation. The reason I'm a pessimist is that's a huge cultural shift. It's like trying to change the tires of a car while you're driving the car at 100 miles an hour. It doesn't work. You have to have a new business structure and a new business design to be able to create a new class of company. And you can't take the same people who are doing the old type of work and expect them to innovate in the new part of work. So there's a massive strategy and cultural discussion that needs to happen at the board level. And hopefully, I think some of the Indian companies will do that. But there will be pain. There will be a lot of pain because of this disruption. Your second question on public health, this is what gives me hope, right? we are buggering up the earth like you won't believe. Every part of it, right? We are buggering up the earth when it comes to natural resources, pollution, and also around population. And I think the Indian government, if we can start having the right partnerships, both with small companies and big companies, and start creating a fabric of data collection on what's happening, right? And coming up with creative approaches of how next generation medicine is going to be done. See, here's the other thing that's happening in medicine. Medicine is changing from being about care being done in a hospital to care being done wherever you are, right? Bulk of the medicine and bulk of the care is going to be done at your home, at your office. And how do you use that phone as your most intelligent personal nurse who can start tapping you on the shoulder and say, go easy on the rasmalai tonight because you already had kubani ka meetha this morning, right? Or whatever it might be. So when people start using these wearables and they start using this instrumented stuff, the phone is certainly going to start becoming more of an advisor and a concierge. And having the government work with industry to come up with, and it could be something as basic as, you said Zika virus. How do we have a national defense system for a Zika virus, right? How do we have things on malaria, right? This is where NGOs, the government, and the industry, I think, can come together. And it needs to be national. There should be a 5-year plan for things like this. Not just an economic 5-year plan, an education 5-year plan, and a healthcare 5-year plan, using technology as the great enabler.
Manoj, as a technology lover, I still have to ask you if you're not painting a very one-sided picture of this technology utopia. There is a dystopia that comes along with it. I agree with you that this is a completely, Homo digitalis is a completely new era. And we must understand it in that context. The digital world is not like the telephone world. In this, you not only connect communication, you don't only collect information, but this has gone from information to data to now knowledge.
Yep.
And knowledge is power.
Yep.
Let me define that. Companies, governments are collecting knowledge, and this is from your talk. They are now collecting knowledge about who we are, things that our parents and our children and our spouses don't know. Now, this knowledge resides in the servers of data of companies and governments. There is no ethical movement. Let's be clear about that. Edward Snowden is still, and it is an illegal. By its very nature, the ethical movement continues to remain illegal and will remain illegal.
Yep.
There is no transparency movement either. Let's remind ourselves of that. There is, in fact, a reverse transparency movement in that consumer data, individuals continue to remain not individuals, but consumers. So there is consumer data that is visible to the corporation and to the government, but corporation data and government data doesn't remain just as equally transparent to the individual. So we have all become, from individuals, we have become consumers, or we have become the citizen whose data is now available to the government.
Yep.
Now this to me smacks of a complete lack of the fundamental basis of the social contract that should exist between a government and an individual, and between a company from whom we are buying stuff and the consumer.
Yep.
Because there was, as a buyer, there was a concept of value for money and value for time.
Yep.
There has to be a new metric which says value for information. And frankly, I don't think that people like you and companies are any more tabulating this value for information that I am sending
your question,
out.
please.
Yeah.
That is the question.
Yeah.
It is a question he
I know
understands.
it's a long question. We have another talk. That's
Okay,
Yeah.
so when you are selling us this utopia,
Yeah.
there is no mention of this dystopia that is already happening, by the
Yeah.
way.
No, I think
There's no
brilliant.
mention of a lack of ethics.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of an entire 9 billion people turned into
Absolutely.
consumers instead of citizens.
Absolutely. Let's give it a round of applause for that question. I love your passion for that topic, and it is people like you, it's groups like these that will start first getting aware of what's coming at us. The purpose of my talk is to not stand here and say I've got everything figured out. The purpose of my talk is to just say I'm looking around the corner, here's what's coming. What does it mean to us in terms of both getting excited and getting us worried? So let me take your question on ethics. So here's the thing. It is people and companies and governments that makes those ethics. The first step to that is understanding what is it that this is going to cause in terms of benefits and the cost. 2 weeks ago, there was a big effort now. This is acknowledged, this is the big companies, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, IBM, they announced this notion called AI for good. And they're at least beginning to acknowledge that there needs to be some rules around it. The US government, the National Transportation Association, came up with new rules for autonomous cars. That when should the car sacrifice itself versus the limb of a person when it's getting into an accident. This is a completely uncharted territory, and people are beginning to think and worry about it. And I think I would expect, Manthan, this year, next year, the year after that, this will become a bigger and bigger topic, because for all the benefits, there are also the darker side, like you pointed out. But it is not, we've been here before, except the scope of this is much bigger. When the internet came about, what were the first two biggest applications of the internet? Pornography and gambling. Go back and look at 1996. The killer app for the internet was pornography and gambling.